finally got our Maxx Slash from Traxxas. You know, we had to go buy it at the toy store. Today is the release day. Maybe someday we'll actually get one of these things early. I'm talking to you, Traxxas. Welcome to No Control RC. Well, you probably saw me leaving the toy store with this saying, you know, we had to wait like everybody else to get one, and we did. And we had to buy it from a local toy store, you know. We like to support local when we can. So we went and purchased it at Toy City, our local place in New Hampshire. This truck, I will say, has been on the internet all over the place, from leaked photos to is it real, conspiracies, and everything else. Well, as you've seen, other people already have them. They are real. So we had to get our hands on one. So I broke into my piggy bank and I spent some money, and here it is. I hope it's worth all of $6.99, because that's quite a bit of money for this platform. But you never know till you get it and try it. So here we're at. So I'm going to let Brandon take over and tell you every boring aspect of this truck, because I just want to drive it.
Optimism. Why do I get to do the boring stuff?
Because you're good at it.
So anyway, since I get to do the boring stuff, there's the box. There it is. Have a nice day. So as you saw, we're going to get this thing out of the box. There's been a lot of buzz about this rig, so let's see if it's worth it. Get in the pocket. What color did you? That's right. What color did you get? You got the funky rock and roll. There it is. Watch. It smells new. That's a weird looking ESC. I was wondering, that's right, I was wondering where the remote was. Here she all is out of the box. This is the rock and roll color, I believe. So she's got all sorts of stuff happening on it. But let's do the boring. So it comes with your little booklet. You got your booklet, you got numbers, you got a wrench and all sorts of shenanigans in there. We'll get to that. Oh, it's got an adapter in it. We'll get to that. Does come with the TQI remote, which is a pretty solid remote-wise from them, but we're interested in this. So, aesthetically, it looks pretty gnarly. So kind of, why don't we bring that thing in and get a closer look, even though you guys have seen it already. All right, so quick first impressions. It is pretty sleek looking. They did some pretty good designs. You got some vents in the back here. That should hopefully help any air that gets trapped inside of it. Of course, the back still is all open. So hopefully all the air will blow right out. But, yeah, I mean, they do a pretty good fit and finish on their bodies. I'm definitely going to say that about it. But I think what we all want to know is, what does she look like under the hood? So let's do this. That's a long reach from my finger there. How's the lid look? Got a nice cage underneath there, because, you know, this thing's going to end up on his roof. So, man, she looks, the color is pretty bright and sharp. It does stand out a little bit. And like I said, the finish on the body is pretty sleek looking. It does look pretty good for a Baja style truck, whatever you want to call it. All right, here we go. So here's the chassis and a quick rundown. So arguably this thing, what was it, 15 years ago came out. So it's gone through many variations, and now here we are with the supersized 6S version. Now, we're really hoping that this thing really lives up to the hype. There's been a lot of good buzz about it. So let's kind of touch through with a few of the generic features, so we can get some batteries in this thing, because I want to run this thing. So we'll start right here at the front. Nice bumper. Got this nice setup in here to absorb a little bit of shock. That's pretty common on all of them. Tires themselves, the tires are belted. They feel pretty decent. They're not super gnarly knobby, but I bet they're going to spin and do some digging. Now we got some pretty good sized shocks right here. There's long travel, high volume, bigger diameter shocks with multiple seals inside of them to eliminate leaking. They are threaded for a preload adjustment. Love that. And you do actually have down here, lower side, you do actually have another hole you can land down a little bit more, which will change your shock rate and give you a little bit different handling. So you got a little bit of adjustability, got a lot of good stuff going for it. Now it does have a very similar chassis, not identical, but they have a similar style to like the Maxx. So you have integrated shock towers and all that, and all of that is in hopes to give this thing some strength. Now, like they have done in the past, you can see down here, especially move the battery out of the way, they have all sorts of honeycomb. Now, it's not super thick, but I would imagine every little bit that they put in must help with a little bit of strength in some manner or not. It does have a nice backbone going down through the center. That, you know, that all helps. Of course, you know, they do have some bolts in it, so when you really need to do some maintenance on it, you can get it apart relatively easily. So since we're right in this area, let's touch upon this bad boy here. Let's touch upon the heart of the rig. So it's a 2000 kV motor with a the VLX6 speed control all in there. So that's got some good snot going right there. And this kind of this neat little cradle thing in here. It's a fixed mesh motor cradle. So it holds the motor here, and you know, you can adjust it how you usually adjust the Traxxas ones, but down under here it actually is a support on the end of the motor. So I'm assuming to stop that little bit of flex that you get through the motor with all your hammering you're going to do with it, maintain good mesh in there because you don't want to strip anything. So the back's kind of like the front. Long travel suspension. The whole goal is what I read was they wanted a long travel suspension to try to mimic the handability of like a desert truck. So they kind of made a basher and tried to make it actually have some suspension capability so you can kind of do everything you want to do. All the way back here to an adjustable wheelie bar. Because the whole goal is that you're going to spend most of your life like this. That's what I want to do anyway. So, steering servo. That is a 2090 servo with 285 ounces of torque. But, you know, like again, you want this thing like this so it shouldn't have a problem steering. Here's your battery tray. Now, this little thing does work pretty slick. Boom, boom. Get it in, lock it in. No straps, no Velcro. That is kind of cool. I do appreciate the thought in that. So let's take a look of the underside. Nice and smooth bottom, but you can tell it does have this center rib. Give her a little bit more strength. So since we're under here looking, the drive shafts and all that, they are a hybrid drive shaft. So the inside of the drive shaft is steel with the plastic, poly, whatever you want to call it, around the outside. So it should have a nice strong backbone, hopefully with all the torque that this thing's going to have. And in the centers here, we do have some nice diffs. So this diff that's right here, what they refer to it as is a torque biasing center drive. So my assumption is, because I haven't pulled it apart yet, it must act like a diff to disperse the torque front and rear, along with a aluminum spline drive shaft running through the center. And back to the outsides, you do have 17 millimeter hubs on the outside of this thing to give you some good meat to provide all that torque, get all that torque right down to the ground. So it is sharp looking. I do gotta say, it's good sized. Obviously, it's bigger than a 10 scale. I feel like platform wise, she looks like she's kind of ready to go. Got these two pigtails that need something hooked onto. Then I think we can do some running. All right, so for a quick size comparison, so here you have our Traxxas 6S in the center. To the left of it, I have my Mojave 4S, which is a pretty cool rig. It's a little bit bigger than a 10th scale, but you can still see length is, this is a hair longer, but this is definitely wider. And to the right of it, we have the UDR. Now, you can kind of see, let's spin these a little bit. So I got the front ones lined up. The UDR is a hair longer. This is wider, but the UDR is taller. Granted, the platforms are kind of different, but for overall size comparison, a lot of people would lump these two maybe in the same class. But chassis-wise themselves, they are profoundly pretty different, I would say. So, but for overall size comparison, this is what we got on hand. So this is what we're going to give you. So most everybody knows somebody that probably has something similar to this. So now you can see what this thing looks like.
All right, well, we're back from running the Traxxas Maxx Slash, the truck with all the buzzes about it on the internet and all the hype, and I would say mixed reviews. There's some good, there's some bad. Just like that with a lot of trucks, but depending on your environment here, there's some extreme swings to the goods and bads. Um, on the pavement, on hard packed dirt, and on like a nice gravel driveway, this thing's a beast. It's an animal. You can control it, do power slides, donuts, all that fun stuff. Flip over a bunch of times and keep on rolling and take off, just like the small Slash. But as you get into different environments, like sand, this thing is not really meant for sand, at least that we could figure. It sits really low, it gets belly hung, the tires are too hard, they don't really dig. It had a tough time out in those conditions, so we tried a little bit stiffer sand, it did a little better, but still a lot of the same. And until you get to that nice hard packed surface, it just kind of struggles and fights itself. The handling in those sandy conditions is almost undrivable if you're really looking to stick it into a corner or get it to go where you want. It just tracks wherever it's going to go. So I'll say if you're dealing with any of those conditions where you're like, I live by a sand pit, this is probably not the truck for you. You should really look into a Traxxas UDR. That thing's amazing in the sand. This thing is more of the basher slash, we can beat the crap out of this truck thing. Yes, we did not break anything, but I'm not real sure how many conditions you can actually use it in. Like, you need to make sure you have the right conditions for this truck. As I said, on the grass, it was okay. It's still cold and wet here, so the grass is a little damp. The ramps were a little wet. So it didn't jump overly all that impressive. As it dries out and you get a little more traction, that'll probably improve. But in the conditions we had, it jumped okay. It doesn't jump like a small Slash does. It does belly slap really easy. So it makes it kind of tough to land and keep on going smooth. And it sounds horrific if you have a hard surface. But, you know, it took everything we threw at it, so we can say that. We did run a bunch of packs through this thing to try to get, you know, all around conditions for it and give it a fair shot and everything. Just certain trucks aren't for certain people. And I'm going to say personally, this one's really not for me. I love my UDR and I like my Baja race. And this is just kind of in the middle of everything. And that works for some people, but personally, it's just not for me. And I bought it with my own money, so you know, I'm going to tell you the truth of what I think. Brandon drove it as well, so he has his own opinions. So,
End of the day, I'm going to mirror everything Alex just said. The only thing I do want to touch upon a few other things. So there's certain aspects of like how the thing handles or whatnot. Some of it is due to the belted tires. They like to stay on top, and they don't really get enough traction to really give you a lot of forward bite. When you hit bumps, she tracks all over the place. It just makes it increasingly harder to drive. But we did touch on, it is spring up here. The grass is a little damp, so a lot of the environments are very loose. The sand pit we brought it to right now is extremely loose, so you really need tire and suspension travel to dig to get down to that nice strong stuff so you can really go. And with the low ground clearance of this thing and the tires that continually stay wide, we just can't get enough forward bite. So I don't want to fully knock this because I think half of it is the environment and the other half is just set up. So is it a super cool rig? Yes. There's a lot of buzz about it. It has the capability to do a lot of cool things. We just couldn't find the spot to do it for us.
yeah, and not to mention that this is $699. So if you're spending that amount of money, you really need to make sure you know what environment you're going to run the vehicle in. Again, if you've watched the channel at all, you know I'm a monster truck guy, so I expect things to do all kinds of stuff, and not everything's designed to do that. But if I'm spending that amount of money, I expect it to at least be really good at what it does do. And this just kind of falls in the middle of everything. And that's fine for a lot of people. Like I said, it's just not what I'm looking for in an RC vehicle. And I'll probably move it along so that I can actually afford to get something else for the channel. Because I can't afford to buy all this stuff and keep it all. You know, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the key phrase, we've said it before, know your environment and know what the RC car likes. And for no fault through this, our environment just isn't conductive for this vehicle. And that's pretty much where I want to leave it.
So, like always, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Comment down below if you have differing opinions or same opinions, or you say, hey, you know, I've had this happen, or why don't you guys try this? We're open to trying anything. If you give us a shout out, we'll try to make it happen. Just be aware that, you know, this channel's us and we do it all on our own, and we don't have any sponsorships, and nobody's giving us anything to do any of this stuff. So it's all our honest opinion.